Along with Dan Bartels, Brian Rabacs, and Lou Orlando, I'm Colin Loughran. Fred McGriff and Scott Rolen, officially Hall of Famers. The festivities and the induction have officially concluded here in Cooperstown. Lou, the speeches, the induction / enshrinement itself, certainly emotional.
The speeches were amazing. I think that was a big topic of discussion throughout all the media availability going into this weekend. McGriff and Rolen, both on the shyer side, both talked about as kind of quiet teammates, and so there were some questions about how are they going to handle the speech, how are they going to handle the presentation. I thought that both speeches were very fitting to who they were in their journeys throughout baseball. For McGriff, it was about his journey all the way from Little League to and through the major leagues and now to this eventual Hall of Fame induction. For Rolen, it's more about the family values that were instilled in him from an early age and really carried all the way through that. I think McGriff's speech kind of went chronologically and detailed his journey, and you get some really cool anecdotes along the way. For Rolen, it's more, he highlights the values the whole way through, and whenever he can weave in stories and really cool points, he does that, but it was less about his journey throughout the major leagues and more about the values that always persisted throughout his time there.
Brian, certainly some tear-inducing moments this afternoon.
Nikki, you've been my constant, unwavering, and loyal. Well, that didn't work.
Both men, prevalent examples that there is beauty in the process.
There certainly is, and there was a lot of people that helped them get to where they are, and they did a good job of showing their appreciation for that. You know, with most Hall of Famers, they're famous for one, maybe two places, but the good thing and the interesting thing about McGriff and Scott Rolen is that they made an impact in a lot of different places in their careers. So for Fred McGriff, he played on 5 teams. He thanked the Toronto Blue Jays for trading for him. When you get traded by a team, he said, it serves that you have a chance in the major leagues. And then he thanked the Atlanta Braves and the Tampa Bay Devil Rays as well, being his hometown team. And then as for Scott Rolen, playing with the Phillies, he thanked them for helping him mature and become a man in this landscape. St. Louis, great fan base, great organization. He thoroughly enjoyed his time there. Thanked the Toronto Blue Jays for taking a chance on him when his career seemed to be in limbo, and then he finished his career in Cincinnati. And Dan, I think this shows a lot about not only the appreciation that they have for everyone that helped them, but the journey it took to get them to where they are today.
Brian, most certainly the journey. I mean, Fred McGriff, all those teams that you named, he doesn't even have a team on his hat going into the Hall, and that's not something you always see. And specifically, we talked about Fred McGriff. He ended up getting cut from his 10th grade baseball team. That's something that he had to overcome.
I could have quit playing baseball, but I didn't. Instead, it motivated me. I got stronger, and I continued to play ball. The next year, I tried out again, and I made the team. But to this day, I know they still tease Pops about cutting me in the 10th grade.
And, of course, with Scott Rolen, I mean, Fred McGriff's parents sadly were not here today, but Scott Rolen's parents were, and it was something that he most certainly continued to talk about. Even his kid today, this morning, said, "Dad, this is exciting. I'm excited for you." And that's not an emotion that he's felt this week. He's felt a lot of other ones. He's felt a little nervousness, that's for sure. But having your own kid say to you, "Dad, it's just another day," that's exactly what Scott Rolen needed and truly what he deserved.
My son helped me this morning. I got up, he came in, and I said, how you doing? How you feeling? He goes, "I'm excited, Dad." I went, "Man, I haven't tried that emotion yet." You know, I've tried so many other ones, and they weren't working too well. I may go with that right there, that I'm excited, and we'll just see what happens.
We've spoken about the beginning, we've spoken about the end, but there was a whole lot of in-between for both McGriff and Rolen. Rolen, of course, winning 1997 Rookie of the Year as a member of the Philadelphia Phillies, also a 2006 World Series champion with the St. Louis Cardinals, hit .421 in that series, also 8 Gold Gloves to his name, played with multiple clubs, as did McGriff. Eventually found a home in Atlanta in 1993. He won a title there in 95, a career .303 average in the postseason. But more than stats, Lou, it's about people and it's about morals, and both of these men, upstanding citizens.
When you talk about McGriff and Rolen, I think you can use the word complete ball players, and I think that transcends just their skill set. I think they both were complete ball players from their skill set, but all of their teammates rave about, man, these were good people, great teammates. Chipper Jones talks about on those, when he was coming up on those really good 90s Braves teams, that Fred McGriff was the most influential person for him in terms of him maturing as a hitter.
I'm on go from the time I leave the dugout, or I was when I was younger. So, he was one of those guys that, got to be a little more patient, got to draw more walks, got to hit the ball from foul pole to foul pole, and took a while, but it stuck.
Was he the most impactful teammate?
Certainly was out of the gate, yeah. Coming out of the gate, it was imperative to have somebody like him hitting behind me, giving me scouting reports, telling me what to look for. All those things, helped a tremendous amount.
So many teammates, including Larry Walker, have raved about how important Scott Rolen was on those teams that, there's a moral character clause in the Hall of Fame, and that is a big part of inducting these players. You hear McGriff talk about all the Hall of Famers behind them. Not just great players, they're great people, and I think that's a huge part of specifically this group, this ceremony, that McGriff and Rolen, both great people.
Without question, Brian, the kinds of people that the Hall is looking to induct.
Well, like Lou mentioned, Fred McGriff and Scott Rolen, both great people, and for them, they didn't even know if this day was going to end up coming. Fred McGriff talked about how he just wanted to play one day in the big leagues. That was his big goal. He came through the minors, but he never could have imagined being in the Hall of Fame. And the same can go for Scott Rolen. And it both took them a while to get here. Rolen getting in on his 6th year on the ballot. McGriff fell off the ballot and got elected by the Veterans Committee. So both of them a long road to get here. But through their character and through their determination, they're able to say that they are now enshrined in Cooperstown, Dan.
Absolutely, Brian, and through their determination, but also through their consistency. We talk about Scott Rolen, a fielding percentage of .972 at third base, fitting for the year that they're in, 2023. Scott Rolen played that many games at third base, never another position. So there really is consistency all across the board. We could talk about Fred McGriff as well. 5 different teams of 30 or more home runs. These guys are well deserving to be in the Hall of Fame, and it's now really getting the flowers that they deserve, maybe a couple years after, but that's more than okay in their eyes.
Fred McGriff and Scott Rolen have reached baseball immortality. That's going to do it for our Cooperstown coverage. For Dan Bartels, Brian Rabacs, and Lou Orlando, I'm Colin Loughran saying so long for WFUV Sports.